Start just by moving leg to leg. Re-establishing sinking, my connection with the ground beneath my feet, which at some point will become the earth. So someone asked me recently, what's the point of these classes, given that they're basically all the same? And it's really just the point of practice. Practice reconnects you with what's important. And for me, what is important has best been put within Heidegger's Fourfold. Taoism also has a fourfold. So these four things which we are, that make up like an environment within which we are embedded. So the Taoist one is just heaven, earth, man, or me, and the Tao. So Heidegger's one was just a little bit different. So number one was the earth. So Tai Chi is all about that, really. Our first connection is with the ground beneath our feet. If we don't have that, then we're pretty limited in everything else that we do. The earth, and then what he called the sky. And that's really what's up there, but it's also the atmosphere. So when I'm breathing, I'm interacting with the sky. I'm taking the air in. I'm giving air with a little bit of me out. And then number three was what he called the divinities, but what we can just think of as spirit. So that life force that animates the world, stops it from just being this dead, inert place. And so Tai Chi is all about spirit as well. So it says in the classics, if you concentrate on spirit, you will be strong. So spirit is just like the animating force. So it's not God. It's before God. God is really just a man-made invention. It's like the personification of tribal identity, the one God. And John once said, believing in one God will not do your Tai Chi any favors. So we just want to see spirit everywhere. So it's very practical. We don't have these abstracts. We are in the world experiencing it. And that's what the Fourfold is all about. And then the fourth, number four of the Fourfold, is mortals. So anything that will die. So us, animals, plants, so anything that has life is finite, will die at some point. And that's what we need to concentrate on. We need to concentrate on the finality, the finitude, the death, if you try and push that away, if you try and avoid thinking about it and avoid being around it, then you're not alive either. So they need to be really bound up together. So if you want to be really intensely alive, then you'll find that you are most intensely alive when you're really close to death in the sense of danger, but also in the sense of someone that's like dying of a terminal illness. As long as they're not drugged out of consciousness, there'll be an intensity about them. In these sessions, we just come back to that really. The earth, which is obvious. The sky, so the sky in all its aspects, its blueness, its beauty, the clouds, these heavy clouds that press down on you, the lightning within the clouds, the thunder, the atmosphere, the wind. So all of these things are aspects of the sky. And we take that into our body through the breathing, but also through the pores. So as we sweat, we're exchanging with the atmosphere, with the sky. And then the divinities or spirit, just this liveliness inside, this thing that tingles when you really, really wake up. And then just in your meditation, feeling the extent of your life. So instead of feeling that it's just this endless stream, feel that it's at one point that it's going to end. If you can get a sense of that, in your own heart, you can hold your own lifespan. And it's a maturing, sobering meditation. Seeing the bigger picture. Somehow part of me can see a picture, has a sense of an expanse for which my span is negligible. Feeling gravity pulling me down. I don't want to resist it. It's a friend. All of these things are friends. The earth is my friend. The sky, the atmosphere is my friend. The divinities certainly are. And so is my death. Everything that I do is done by yielding. So what does yielding mean? First of all, I have to be really open and venturing forth. Something in me has to be coming out, willing to embrace and draw in. And so this is the feeling of how we move. So I'm not moving by just pushing out of this foot. I'm moving by opening here and then just taking this foot and what's beneath it up into me. So it's like I'm feeding. I'm opening like a big mouth and just sucking in, and that is pulling me forwards. We're training the mind. We're using the body to retrain the mind. And these are things that always need to be practiced. Something in me is opening, and I just take it in. So remember the three components of yielding: sinking, turning, and moving backwards. So here I'm turning, I'm sinking, obviously. Now, in what sense am I moving backwards? Because actually I'm coming into this foot. But if I'm turning, then part of me is going back and part of me is going forwards. So when I turn this way relative to the front, this is moving backwards and this is moving forwards. So when I'm coming into this foot in order to embrace the ground that is beneath my foot, I'm sinking, I'm opening, I'm turning. And this is actually moving backwards. Like if you're going to kiss someone, your face comes towards their face, your lips come towards their lips. But at that moment of touch, there's liable to be a clash because you're both moving unless something happens that's quite special. So what that has to be is that there has to be a turn. As you approach, you're actually retreating at the same time. There's a moment, the moment of contact. If you want that to be soft and with real feeling, then part of you has to be drawing backwards as you touch. So this is what's happening here. My turn enables this here to be receiving the ground at the same time that the ground receives me here. It's beautiful. Sinking is the most obvious one, but also turning, not simply just turning like this, just ignorantly, but turning because I do want to receive and give at the same time. So I'm receiving here and giving here. So it's just typical Tai Chi. It's just rollback, really. So as I come into the foot, I'm sinking and I'm yielding and gathering up, and then here. So what I don't want is to go back relative to the other person. If the other person is rushing forwards, then I can go back, but relative to them, I'm staying with them. I'm sticking to them. And so here, because this spot is not really moving beneath my foot, I need to receive it and embrace it at the same time. And so I need that going back and coming forwards at the same time within my body. It's just waving hands in the clouds, really. You're just opening up and then embracing. And just one hand happens to be on top. So this is the basic motor. You can think of it as opening and closing. You can think of it as breathing, breathing in, breathing out. Think of it as swallowing and spitting. So I open, and this could be interpreted as an attack because something in me is coming out and coming forwards. And then at that moment of contact, or even slightly before that moment of contact, I draw in. My elbows rise. When I'm attacking, remember, in Tai Chi, the elbows are dropping. And when you yield, when you start yielding, your elbows come up in order to create a round space here. And in another sense, the work that we do, these sessions, they're just reconnecting to energy. The thing we tend to lose in our daily living because of its coarseness and its self-centeredness. So energy is the subtlety that's there when you forget yourself. And spirit is just the highest form of energy. Feel it in the heart. So here my heart blossoms, really opens. And then my heart sort of draws in. So hollowing the chest is what they call it in Tai Chi. And that draws in the other. So my heart goes out, it touches the person. And then I just suck it in, and that person will get sucked in with it. So I always come back to that beautiful quote of Young Ban Ho. Essence, energy, and spirit have a specific controller. Heartfelt sincerity. So it's your heart, it's the goodness of your heart, really, and the activity of your heart makes it come from the right place, if you like, because it's so easy to do all this stuff badly motivated. And so it's the heart that purifies. Just the two, so breathing, really. Let's just start by, it's the same thing. Everything is just the same, really. But I just want this sense of coming out, almost as though something has parted here, something has opened, and there's a sense that I can step out of myself. So here, it's like the heart opens, a big gash opens up, and I can step out and just forwards. I can have a presence forwards of my own body. And then I just draw that back in, I suck it back in. And it closes down, the curtains close. So here I'm opening up and coming forwards. So this is bringing me into the front of the foot, so my heels can come off the ground. And then I activate this. I activate this by just pulling in the middle of my back backwards. And that sucks this presence back in, along with anything that it's connected to. The back is really arching strongly. So my tail is driving down and back, and my head is sort of rearing up and back, which is allowing my heart to go up towards the ceiling. And then here I suck in my heart and my belly, and that will bring my head over and bring my tail under. So making the circles. So here my spine becomes part of the front of a circle like this. And then here my spine becomes the back of a circle like this. So this is really reaching out into the world, reaching into the bigger picture, taking all the limits off, all the boundaries disappear. And then this is just bringing it into the absolute particular here and now. Both of these phases will tend to bring you out of your route if you're not careful. So this will tend to make me want to do this, sort of power upwards. But I really want to feel the middle of my back. So you can feel it as the Ming Men, as this point where the lumbar and the thoracic spine join, or even higher up, opposite the heart. Just this sense of a center of the spine. So when I do this phase, what's most important really is that what's beneath that central point is driving down into the legs and into the ground, so that there's no net movement upwards. And then here, when I pull like this, what tends to happen here is that my bum goes out like that, which again indicates a straightening of the legs. It will tend to go out partly because of inflexibility here, but largely because the legs just want a bit of a break, want a bit of a rest from all the sinking. So I have to struggle. So here I have to release here and around the sacroiliac so that I can really push down through my sacrum and tail. And then I just pull in here, and here I have to really struggle to stay down, because this will tend to happen if you're not careful. I find myself doing it all the time. And then when we're standing in just riding horse, it's like the middle ground between those two extremes. Now let's just have a wider. So everything that we do has a quality of meditation, a sense that we're looking at what's happening, we're looking at the feelings. When we stop the mind, then we start to feel. We feel energy, but we also feel our own emotions. So what is it that makes sinking difficult? There's the obvious pain in the legs, but there's also a real fear and distaste for the ground. So something in me, I just have to retrain myself so that I'm just really content and pleased to be this low. And then you'll find that a lot of the pain, not all of it, goes. It's just no longer such a problem, largely because that acceptance and relaxation just opens up this area. Then it's like you're not fighting anymore. I remember at Wimpole Street when we were doing the power class. So we did that for 3 years, waiting for a dance class to start, the dance of vitality, dance of equality, sorry. And so at every power class, John would give a talk. And basically the subject of the talk was always sinking. But he managed to find a different way of approaching it every time. So it didn't seem like we were just doing the same thing all the time, but in fact we were. It's all just about sinking. It's just about, can you regain that fundamental relationship with the ground? The problem nowadays is that most of our relationships are with other people. So much so that we have a real aversion to loneliness and being on our own. And so the best way to reconnect with the ground is through meditation. You're sitting on a cushion, very close to the ground. Your danchen is almost on the ground. And you're just training your mind to simply be content with that. You don't need extra. You don't need entertainment. You don't need to be talking to someone on the phone. You don't need to be talking to yourself in your own head. It's just enough just to be with the space that you're in and with gravity that's operating through you. So I relax and I soften. I soften so that I can have a sense that I've allowed gravity into my body. Gravity is now something that feels like it's flowing down within my body rather than simply a force that's pulling my body down. I have to become transparent. I have to become open and porous so that things can just come into me. The only way you can get your energy out is if you first allow energy in. Very Taoist. Now let's just try. Some of the full and empty. So there's a sense when I come forwards of my weight pouring into this foot. You can think of your weight as like being a glass of water, and I'm just pouring it. So like two glasses, one empty, one that's full. So this is the full one, this is the empty one. As I come forwards, I fill this glass, and then as I go back, I fill this glass. So there's a sense of something flowing like this into the leg. So that's easy to feel. But if you think of the glass, so you've got these two glasses, one that's full, one that's empty. This glass is going to be tipped into here. So the experience of this glass is that water is flowing out of it. It's moving in this direction. But the experience of this glass is that water is moving up like this against the flow from the other glass. And this is what I want to feel. I want to feel that as I come forwards and flow into this leg, the experience of this leg is of something rising up. And then I can reverse it. And then as I go back, I'm flowing this way physically, but something is flowing up the filling leg. So it flows down the leg when you leave it, when you empty it, and it flows up the leg when you come into it. Feel the water, the energy coming all the way up until it stimulates my thymus. And now just feel this a little bit differently. So the energy flows out of down this side of my body and out. And what is it that makes me change direction, makes me start coming forwards? We want the feeling, it's like the energy that you've let go of wanting to return. So here I'm releasing this side of my body and it just wants to return, and that's what moves me forwards. It's not this leg pushing me. It's this leg drawing in. I'm releasing. This is like an attacking. And again, it's yielding. It's the attack, the straight line of the attack becoming round by lifting my elbow or by sending my knee round. Remember, knees and elbows are basically the same. So I release. This is like a straight line. And then in order to bring it back in, I have to create a round containing space that is empty so that it will have a sense of sucking, like a vacuum. So here I've let this energy out, and then I just I open here, I send the knee out, I bring the elbow up, and that creates this empty ward-off space, which draws the energy back in and makes me come forwards. So here, releasing, and ooh. So this is the hollow chest and the released shoulder blade. So this has to have a real feeling that it's going around something that's really quite big. So very open here and across the back, and almost the sense that your arm is coming out of the shoulder joint. I release, and then I create a container. And the same as the back leg, I round out here, knee. Yes, all these joints have to break and just open so that I can make this round container. So this is where all those years of single hand pushing comes in very useful. So the more straight you can make the emptying, so the more you can make sure everything is emptied out, everything is flushed out, then the stronger that ward off is, the rounding, the more of an effect it has. Here I really try and straighten this leg. And then is all I have to do is just bend it a little bit and create this space here and here. This is just basically the same thing. So here I'm rounding the arm. And that starts me moving backwards. The energy comes up this leg and into this arm out here. And then I just round out here. So this arm becomes a circle. If I measure the length of this straight line, what I want is for the circle, the circumference of the circle that I produce to be long, even longer. So the circle has really pulled this out. I've got added length across my shoulder. This circle is much bigger than the line that it grew out of. You just repeat and repeat and repeat until you sort of fall into it. You become the exercise. Your mind quietens. Your mind stops. And you're just so full of feeling. You're feeling exactly what's happening. It's the opposite of getting bored and the mind wandering. You're doing more harm than good if you let that happen. So the straight becomes round. That is the relationship I have with the other person. Something in me comes out and approaches. And then as soon as I start making contact, I become round so I can contain them, so I can be soft. So that's how we approach the other. But it's also with our legs how we approach the ground. So I'm coming into this leg by rounding out this leg. Obviously, this leg has to bend in order for me to get into that foot. But it doesn't just bend by folding here. It bends by rounding, the same way that my arm doesn't just bend like this. It creates a round space. So everything that I do is a yielding. It's the straight becoming round. this folds. And I'm just driving into my sacrum. And that's really forcing me into the legs. So how do I relax here and drive down so that this thymus can really feel that it's coming out fiercely? So I have to lean forwards a little bit, almost like you're on the way to becoming horizontal spine, on the way to becoming animal. So something in me is really fierce. So to get this real sense of my eyes like out on stalks and this almost anger surging out here, something here has to really drive back and down to stop me from falling forwards. It's like the dinosaur, that when it runs, its tail is extended out behind it. So this spine has got a real sense of wanting to reach forwards, but also balanced by this sense of a long tail reaching backwards. Okay, let's try just a bit on the wall. So the same thing, really. So I'm just going to drive. So I'm pushing this point down and forwards, and my upper back is sort of rearing back. So the spine is just becoming an extension of my back leg, and just a beautiful sweep like this. Just really relax it around the bottom of the sacrum and the tail. We're so used to pulling that in, which I think is completely wrong. It's a very sort of civilizing force, if you like. If you can repress people here and here, then they're more likely to be controllable and will therefore fit into a civilized society better. We just want to wake all that up, wake all that wildness, that libido, especially here. I'd normally tighten here to stop it from going out. If anything, I would pull it under. Now I just really want to just stick that out. Like Young Cheng Fu, if you look at the pictures of Young Cheng Fu, I never used to understand why it looked like it almost like it was horizontal here. So the consensus is that basically Chen Manqing was just Confucianist rather than Taoist, so all to do with polite compromise, really, rather than a fierce engagement with his own spirit in the natural world. So we want to really just pushing here. This is going out, like it's pointing backwards. And then let's just squat. Feeling the proximity to the ground. Register how it affects the mind, affects the feeling mind, not the thinking mind. Thinking doesn't come into Tai Chi. So when I get this close to the ground, there's something in me just settles. The earth earths. It really does. Bringing the weight forwards. So this is, for me, is really strong, just allowing the arms to fill with the ground, because it's not something that they normally do. We're so used to the legs filling, so used to it, we anesthetize from it. But here I can really feel the arms building strength from the ground, absorbing the quality of the ground. It's cool, hard, sort of crystalline structure. And just imagine how much more powerful this would be if we were outside in nature. I am becoming the ground, the same way I become the wall when I lean on the wall. And now let's just straighten the leg. I can work the spine and sort of rear up from this. But I also want to be able to get really down, really low. So I'm almost crawling. You know, with those movies and the soldiers are training to go into combat, and they lie on the ground and sort of work their way forwards with their elbows and their knees. So their belly just staying in contact with the ground all the time. That would be a great exercise. So this sense that I just really want to get low. I want to join with the ground. And then just move across. And now slightly narrower. Just the figure of 8. I'm trying to keep this pretty much in the middle. There's a sense that I have a tail hanging down and it's very loose. And this movement is just swinging it around. So my tail is now pointing like this. I have to be able to work all this area in order to be able to direct the tail with these like flicks of the hips. We're not doing this. We're not straightening this leg in order to throw this hip up. I'm trying to stay down. There should always be a sense that as you continue with an exercise, you're getting lower and lower. So what I want is that I come round this foot and then I can just allow that to bring my weight into it. So round. And then as the figure of 8 continues, it brings up this foot. And then I go around this foot. When you lift the foot, it's almost like you've got underneath the foot and you've lifted it up from underneath rather than pulling the knee up. So I've gone down and I lift this foot up. It's quite tricky, but it really does get you down deep into the legs. Get the feeling that I'm in this region. We're so used to being up here, so used to be with our senses and with our thinking. To get into the legs, you have to get beneath the dantian. Now, this is the same with the form. You should be able to do a form, when your energies are and you're in good shape, that is so sunk, instead of there being a sense that it's all happening waist up, it's all happening underneath the waist. So my hands go down and dip from the ground. And if you want to get into the legs, you just really need to waken up the tail, activate the tail. tail is swinging and looping down the leg. And then let's just try that stepping exercise. Figure of 8 around my feet. The mind continuous, an unbroken thread. Keeping this figure of 8 going. And then the other foot. Think of hunter-gatherers. So this is a bit like gathering, like we're picking something from the ground and bringing it up and putting it in a bag. And then let's just finish just by being the hunter, person that's got such an intense spirit that's sort of pulling them into the world. So it's a bit like a squat. I want the sense that this is really driving back so that I can come out with real intensity here. I want this to come out. I don't want it simply to be there on the surface. It has to come out of me. There's part of me that needs to be in the world exploring a long time before my body's got to it. That just means that the top end of that line, the line of my spine, has to be open so that I can pour out of it and into the world through my eyes and through my heart. But for that to be open, the other end has to be open as well. I need a real sense that this is driving back and down, not just pushing, but it's open. When it opens, it sort of goes up a notch in intensity. It's the driving here that allows my heart to thrust forwards and out. And now just reel it in. Legs not straight. The legs are never straight. Not both together anyway. So there's always this sense of working the ground. Feel the activity in the toes, like your toes are trying to do what the fingers are doing. Like the roof tile hand of Tai Chi. So you're working all the time. And just feel the fourfold. So you've got the ground, the earth. Objects would be considered part of that. They're made from the earth at some point. And then the sky, I can see the sky. And the air that I'm breathing. It's like I'm drinking from the atmosphere. And then spirit, my own vitality, the tingle in the room that my work has stimulated. But then also that sense that spirit never lasts for long. It's transient, and so am I. There's an end to all this. And there's another aspect of our work that makes it real in a way that most things nowadays aren't. And that is that it encourages us to have a more healthy attitude and relationship with pain. So we live in a society that is analgesic, that just hates pain and will take pain away at any opportunity. So what we do, we embrace it, pain in the legs, the passion. Because we know that that's the only way to actually really get into life. Suffering, really. There's a beautiful Walter Benjamin quote where he basically says, pain just really takes you into living, and comfort, we know all this, comfort just pushes you away from life. Pleasure is a dead end, I think is how he put it. Whereas pain is actually a journey. It will actually take you somewhere amazing.